Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is October 22nd, 2022. How are you? Hopefully, you've had a good week, having a good time. Hopefully, this episode finds you well. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty all right, I must say. Let's see. You know what? Gonna spice things up. Do a little drug corner. um, I have been very pleased. I got a little bit of what you would call concentrate, weed concentrate, or dabs, as the slang. I don't know, whatever. So I got a couple grams of that, and that was pretty fucking cool. We pre-gamed that before the episode. Gotta let you know. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's see. Other than that, we can talk about some food. Honestly, not too deep on the food this week. I haven't really gotten too crazy. I will say I treated myself today. Um, After my little short Saturday shift, I went to Penn Station and I got not one, but two small subs. I got East Coast Philly cheesesteak, and then I also got the Italian, which I'm gonna confess I had a bit of a head ass moment, and when I ordered it, I thought I was getting like an Italian sausage sandwich. They used to have those back in the day. I don't know if you just have to ask for it or something like that, or they just took it off the menu. Probably the latter. But I got an Italian. I was like, oh wait, what is this? And then like she reiterated the order to me. I was like, oh yeah, duh, I'm dumb. There's like an Italian sandwich. That's why they. That's why she had asked me if it was hot, cold, or whatever. And I was like, I want it hot. So a little dumb there, but it was good. Got that with a large lemonade and a medium fry. So all in all, a good order. Let's see. Other than that, that's pretty much all I got for myself. We can go ahead and get into the thick of it. Let's see where we want to start. We'll start off with some Ukraine news, Ukraine-Russia news. Got this from Yahoo News, also Reuters. U.S. says Iranians in Crimea helping Russia use drones against Ukraine. So this is a story came out. Let's say the article says Thursday as of what October 19th. But essentially, it believed that Iranian military staff had been deployed in Crimea to provide assistance to Russian forces using Iranian made drones to attack Ukraine as the West slapped sanctions on Tehran in response. So I was hearing, a couple of news things about this, like talking about like kamikaze drones. Essentially, they're called that because these are drones that more or less have like missile-like capability, and essentially they're used as such. So they are patrolled, and then they just come down and they explode. And they've been using these, all across Ukraine as like kind of a response to the pushes that Ukraine has been doing. And they've been hitting all kinds of spots. I know a really big thing that's been hit is the energy sector in Ukraine, like power plants and things of that nature. It's in an attempt to like disrupt, dismantle the situation that they have for energy going into winter, which is kind of what we've been talking about the past like couple weeks. A lot of this is kind of being planned, so it's like, look, we know that once we get to the winter, this is going to get even tougher. Ukrainian, Russian winters are very harsh. They're very, hardcore situations. And especially if you have to worry about yourself as a soldier, if you have to worry about your family at home, going through this kind of situation, that's only adding to your woes. It's adding to lack of morale. So, play like this is definitely a really bold thing. Um, Obviously, too, Iran being included in this conversation is definitely a development. Not that they haven't been, they're kind of more or less allies in ways with Russia. I think we haven't really covered it too much on the podcast, but this is just one of their ways where they're kind of coming to the forefront of the conversation. But also, we've been talking a lot about Iran with the protests going on there. So just a lot of what you could say is action and overlap going on. let's see, what else did I want to pull from this article that I want to talk about? They've been setting up like brownouts or blackouts kind of in response to all this, which is definitely like a situation that really you can read about that, but like I don't know, like I can tell like it's not something that I can really say like, oh, I completely get that. The only way you really can is you've gone through like a power outage and things like that. Like, yeah, that sucks. Like, especially let's say, excuse me, said power outage, you just got like a whole week's worth or whole even month's worth if you're certain families of groceries. And now all those groceries are gonna rot. How are you gonna get through this week, this month now? Like that's a whole extra thing to your budget. Not to mention, you don't know when it's gonna come on. So these blackouts are like multiplied versions of that because they're happening on like a regulated schedule and they could potentially get worse. So, whenever I hear about a country having to deal with that and go through that, it's just, really sad. It's really just, concerning and scary. I know in different ways because we're doing it for like what climate control. I know what is it, California, I believe, is doing like energy reduction times of the day where you're like not supposed to use like AC and stuff like that. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, in some ways, with climate change, it might become more of a norm for some areas, but definitely in a war situation like this, it's really scary. Really, you know, ugh. Let's see some other stuff. Putin inspected a training ground for mobilized troops and was shown firing shots from a sniper rifle in footage apparently intended to show his personal backing for soldiers heading to the fight in Ukraine. Yeah, it was a little video. He came through. He like had like this big black jacket. He's like all blacked out. Looked nice, but he like got on the ground, like shot the sniper. He did the weapons inspections and stuff and like asked a new recruit like, oh, do you feel like you got like everything you need? And I was like, yeah, I do. And then he did the thing which a little bit of foreshadowing in this episode, but Kevin Spacey did it, and Netflix's House of Cards where he bangs on the table with his hand. And it's like I remember that scene and that thought process or whatever was like very like when I was like in my mid-20s or whatever the fuck watching this shit. I was just like, yeah, like okay, vibes. I guess that's like yeah, it's really commanding. But then thinking about it, it's like it's so silly to do this. Like, why are you making a commotion, like pounding your fist against the table? Like, what does this do? This doesn't do anything. Um, but yeah, so he did that, did a little show and show him. I don't know what way to rhyme this, but let's see. They also talk about another appointment in like the military staff. Like, let's see, Sergei Surovikin, who has been nicknamed General Armageddon. I guess like for some of his like work actions he's done, atrocities you could say for sure in like Syria or whatever. So he's kind of like now the commander of the quote unquote special military operation, which I really don't get why they're so beholden to that at this point. Like we've been doing this shit for so goddamn long. You've done the troop thing, like the mobilization thing, like come on, like let's just call it what it is, right? Like it's just silly, but here we are. I guess they gotta hold on to that. Let's see. I think that's more or less what I had for this article. Got one more thing though on the Russia-Ukraine front. I got this also from Reuters. Putin demands all Russia war effort as he declares martial law in occupied Ukraine. So, like the four, big territories that were claimed in the whole quote unquote referendum, whatever, the new territories, quote unquote, to Russia, more or less have now been, put under martial law. Essentially, this is kind of just a general way of Putin and the Kremlin to exert more control, more force in the area and do more. Also, it adds special little stipulations where like, hey, you guys have to like help the military effort, you guys have to help supply it, all these kind of things. So now these Ukraine areas are literally going to have to give up their own things and just more or less submit to being ransacked. And that's just the way it is, under this kind of martial law situation. Kind of like boiling it down a bit here, but that's how I kind of interpret it. Let's see, and it's also like kind of different variations of intensity, like based on its location, like to the border, like of the conflict for them. So some areas a little bit heavier, some are a little bit lighter, but just essentially more power is being given to like the Russian, governorship and stuff like that. I've heard also some like sad stories and whatnot, like listening to BBC of like a priest who was captured, like tortured, and essentially more or less for like saying like you're harboring, abating, like sheltering people who are like resisting, and that's not cool. That's not okay. And they tortured this man, held him, and he was eventually released. And kind of changed his tune a bit in terms of like he was a little bit more on the line, but then like within weeks or months or so, like because I know this situation obviously happened in terms of the referendum, but they've been there for a while now. But essentially, like he's like, okay, he left and was like, yeah, that was really messed up. They did some really terrible stuff to me. So I mean, it's just a sad situation. You're living in a situation where you're occupied by a whole other fucking country, and you have to just worry every day what's gonna happen next. So yeah, we took a break from it, but I wanted to, definitely get back into it. I know it's been marching on, grinding on. I'm sure there's more stories that I'm missing, but I'm going to give you a couple of chunks. Let's see here. Let me actually grab a drink. Oh yeah, the beer today is natural ice, natty ice. Let's see. I got this from Yahoo News, also HuffPost. Steve Bannon sentenced to 4 months for contempt of Congress. So, in a way, this is a we got him, boys. But I don't know. It's a very light, light work, and potentially he might not have to serve. Like right now, this whole thing's under an appeal, and he's on the street right now until that gets resolved. I don't know, man. I guess that's how this works. But let's see. Former Donald Trump advisor Steve Bannon was sentenced to 4 months and fined $6,500 on Friday after previously being found guilty of acting in contempt of Congress in a legal saga more than a year ago. So, the prosecutors initially had been shooting for 6 months and a fine of $200,000, but he dodged that by a couple months and a lot of money. Let's see. And the thing that's kind of interesting here, there was the U.S. District Judge Carl Nicholas, who was a Trump appointee, over this whole case, essentially said, like, look, dude, like, you're in the wrong here. Let's see. He noted Bannon's lack of remorse before handing down his ruling, according to according to reports from the scene. Nicholas reportedly told the court that others must be deterred from similarly flouting congressional authority. He then proceeds, to walk out. He doesn't say anything for real. And he decries the illegitimate regime of President Joe Biden. So, like, that's the weird, like, duality here. It's like, wait, dude, like, the person who's handing out this justice isn't a part of Joe Biden's regime. It's a court appointed, like a Trump appointed guy. Like, I don't. It's very frustrating to like hear these people just go and blame the administration that they don't like for all their problems, despite when you actually give them everything they want, keys to the kingdom. It's just never enough. Shit just smells weird, feels weird to me. Let's see. He does add though. Their judgment day is on the 8th of November, when the Biden administration ends. Essentially, he's referring to the midterms, which I mean, I'm not gonna say like obviously all of that's true, but right now it's definitely not looking too great in terms of polling. It's looking pretty bad in terms of the House, looking in terms of like favoring the conservatives, Republicans taking control there, which would disassemble the January 6th situation. Like that most likely would just get wrapped up and potentially would work in Bannon's favor, in terms of an appeal. So, we'll see how that goes. Let's see. He is supposed to, though, be serving if the appeal is thrown out, he's supposed to come in and serve the sentence November 15th. So, we'll see shortly how that's going to go. But yeah, this always leaves a weird taste in my mouth. Oh, yeah, also in the Senate, it's a little bit closer of a situation where we don't know. It's going to definitely come down to, you know, how the votes shake out, of course, but it's a tight race all along the whole field. So I guess from a, Democratic liberal perspective, that's the best you can ask. That's the best you can hope for. Considering, usually the trend is who's ever in office usually gets their shit bucked in the midterms, and then it kind of goes back and forth in that regard. But we'll see. We'll see how much of a quote unquote referendum this might be. Also, some like kind of loose bits kind of wanted us to tie to this article. Let's see. Trump has been subpoenaed by the January 6th committee. So he could be in similar waters to Bannon if he decides to not show up, not deal with the committee at all, and just shirk them. It could shake out differently, though, for him if he is, put on trial for contempt or whatever the fuck. So, we'll keep you posted on all of that. Oh, yeah, let's see. Also, this kind of offhand, I'm kind of shoving this in here with, like, no links, no source. But the Biden administration has kind of thrown a little bit of, this is like old news a little bit, like a week ago. But the Biden administration's kind of thrown a little bit of a temper tantrum with Saudi Arabia over the whole OPEC situation. They were obviously a part of that, being, a mass distributor of oil. And them leading the conversation, saying, hey, like, we're doing this to make sure we make our profits, yada, yada, yada. Biden has potentially, I think he's leaning to do more reserves, like open up more of our own oil reserves, which some people are saying like, whoa, that's a risky thing to do. You shouldn't do that. But he is doing that, in some might say also a political way because it's right before the midterms to kind of like say, hey, I am doing what I can for you guys on that so you don't actually feel the pain at the pump as bad. Because I'm sure you noticed gas has been going up. Kind of a little bit upsetting, but it is what it is, right? What are you going to do? But yeah, I thought it was weird because we literally, and I wanted to mention this because I just kind of was just had a whiff of the Biden talk and I wanted to like get this in here. But it was just weird that, we've talked about how Biden went, to the kingdom and, he's fist bumping, MBS. He's, talking to the king, all this shit. And then he doesn't get what he wants. And it's all of a sudden, oh, we need to rethink our relationship with Saudi Arabia. It's like, huh? Like, how, and then how? How are you going to do that? And, people are talking about, like, oh, we're going to change up our arms deal relationship with them, and maybe we're going to work with, just give more guns to Ukraine or something like that. Like, I've heard, just that across both right and left sides. I mean, like, I don't know. It just seems weird. It also seems like a good luck with that. But, yeah, there you go. That's a little bit of bonus extra for you. I just wanted to throw that in there on the fly. Let's see. Next bump. Got this from Yahoo News / the Associated Press. Let's see. Jury. Kevin Spacey didn't molest actor Anthony Rapp in 1986. Now, this is a verdict that I was kind of surprised to hear. I didn't cover this like edge to edge or anything like that. But on Thursday, a jury sided with Kevin Spacey in one of the lawsuits that derailed the film star's career, finding he did not sexually abuse Anthony Rapp, who was then 14. I believe Spacey would have been 26 at that point. While both were relatively unknown actors in Broadway plays in 1986. So, essentially, the story, according to Rapp, was they were at his apartment. It goes into the details and it's fought about by both sides about like what this apartment was. He says it was one bedroom. Spacey says it was no, it was a studio apartment actually. That didn't have a lot of company over, even for a housewarming. But he says he was invited over and Kevin Spacey like made a move at him in his bedroom, like more or less trying to like, get on top of him or whatever. And Anthony Rapp, squirmed out of it and got away. But, it was a really traumatic, very, jarring situation for him. And he had kept quiet. And then I think more accusations came out. I'm not sure if he was the first, but it's crazy that it kind of shook out this way. Now, granted, I mean this is a civil lawsuit for $40 million in damages, but I don't know, just seeing the track record, like there was stuff that I didn't even know about. Apparently, he had lost a lawsuit or had to pay, and this is Spacey, had to pay $30.9 million to the makers of House of Cards for violating his contract by sexually harassing crew members. Um, let's see. I think there's some more in here that they list, but they do go into like how parts of the trial went. Spacey's lawyer, more or less is saying like was jealous of Kevin Spacey's fame and becoming like a megastar, and he latched onto a situation to kind of like get his own attention. Now Rap is was on like the I think the original Broadway for Rent. He's also in like the Discovery Star Trek, something like that. So I mean, it's not like he's hurting, but essentially like the argument is like he was just clout chasing, and he's doing this for attention. Also, Spacey, let's see, said in an initial statement, and this was in 2017. He says, "I owe him the sincerest apology for what would have been deeply inappropriate drunken behavior." Essentially, let's see, he was saying like maybe it did happen. He's like, I don't think so, but like if it did, I was like really drunk. But then he comes out and says, "Oh, I was being pressured by people because of the whole Me Too movement, and that's why I said that, and I would never do that again." Like never like say something that isn't true, apologize for something that didn't happen. Excuse me. Um, Also during the trial, he like told the jury a sob story about how his father was a white supremacist and a neo-Nazi who berated him as gay because he liked the theater. Um, I don't know, man. To me, this is, obviously my 2 cents on it, how I feel. I do feel like he was guilty. I do feel like he got away with this. I mean, that's just my personal opinion, podcasting guy. But hey, I sometimes I guess you just get to slither on through. Um, it's a shame, that someone like, Anthony Rapp doesn't get justice in the situation. Um, I don't know. I sadly I wish I had more to add. I guess for me it just sucks to hear this guy in action too. Personally, I'm definitely a guy who's seen it. I'm not saying I've watched like Kevin Spacey faithfully, but I do like a good amount of his movies. I would buy the hype on terms of saying he's like a good actor or was a good actor. Um, but to just hear that he's out here doing all that, who did all this shit, was this slimy up until even like recent years. Like, it's not like this is new. I remember he even came out as gay as a defense for all this shit. He's like, I don't know. I don't even want to try to like quote him or source him here, but it's just, it's wild to me how he's just kind of meandered through this whole situation. But I don't know. This has definitely been like a big week in terms of these kind of cases. I'm giving you this one. I kind of had to like pick and choose. I might try to get to them later. Not sure, but let's see. Uh, Harvey Weinstein, he's back on trial for some shit. Like another sexual rape allegation that he's on the block for. And then a big one, Danny Masterson from That 70s Show is on trial. That trial's going on. A lot of talk about him, a lot of talk about Scientology, the shit he was doing, crazy shit. So I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to get to that or if that's gonna be on the menu per se. I might just like wait for verdicts to drop and then kind of do a little summary. I'm not sure, but yeah, this was the one I picked. It kind of like resolved first, or just was like, I'm just gonna take it. This is the one I wanted. So I got one more to go before I let you go. So you know what that means? It's break time. Ooh, ooh. Ooh. And we're back. This last one I got from the Insider. Oh boy. um, and honestly, guys, I'm not the only one up in smoke. Okay, all right. UK PM Prime Minister Liz Truss resigns after just 6 weeks, rejected by financial markets and her own party. So, I mean, like I said, if you guys have been following the newsies, know I've done a little bit of talking about Liz Truss. I've gone a little bit deeper on it. UK, man, like y'all government, the way y'all move, so aggressive. So that's been like one of the more interesting things for me doing this podcast and learning that, like actually following it. I was so surprised. This is, I think, going to be their fifth now, if I'm not mistaken, now after Liz Truss. But I mean, essentially, she had come in on a plan of economic growth. She was going to do a lot of tax cuts. She was going to be like the UK equivalent of Ronald Reagan. Like it was supposed to be like this libertarian style of governing that was really going to like appeal to the masses, but more importantly to the rich people who like actually put her in power. The way that the parliament works in the situation, the Tories who are in power, they pick the new person. So like, Boris Johnson resigned, whatever, they were going to pick, to a vote. And essentially Liz Truss told them what they wanted to hear. And, Rishi Sunak, the person who is the runner-up, was more or less trying to say, look, I would love to paint you that picture, but the reality is we do have to deal with this situation. We do have to deal with inflation properly. We are going to have to go through some hard time, but we will be able to get through that. And then when we get through that, we can talk about that kind of stuff. People weren't hearing that. So the people voted, and honestly, they voted for the whitest candidate possible. Let's just be honest here. Hey, that's just politics as usual, I guess, in a lot of places, especially these world powers. You feel me? Just had to say that. But they got what they wanted because the plan was garbage. Literally, like the initial person on her staff, like person, like I kind of want to say it was like a right hand man, just like a really close person in the party with her. They came up together. Essentially, they were supposed to come up with this plan. He rolls out the plan. Everyone's like, I mean, it sounds good as hell. It sounds like you guys are really painting us a really great picture. But then the financial market was like, that's not going to work. You are not factoring in how inflation works at all in this plan. And that's going to be so bad for the world abroad, for a place like UK to try this. And it's going to be bad. Don't do it. And, Liz Truss tried to hold frame and try to say, no, this is what we're going to do. You guys don't see it, but it's going to work. But like immediately the market responded. The pound took a dive. And, naturally that means everyone's immediately hurting on the streets. And I think once that happened, I guess that was it. Like, which is crazy to me because so much shit happens in a U.S. president's time. But no matter what, they will have their 4 years or then potentially another 4 years after that. There's no, wait, dude, this is it, bro. You gotta go for this alone. So having that kind of power to be able to just be like, if this shit is getting so crazy, so out of hand, we will cut you off. And just to make sure that our party is still like a favorable party that's doing what needs to be done, that is making us look the best we can. I mean, that's why they've had so many changes in such a short time. But also there was an update from the Patreon episode. Apparently there was like a meeting kind of party thing, and there was a vote. I think it was like energy related, but essentially the situation got so heated that like, and I've said this before, like it's kind of crazy the frenetic energy that can happen in Parliament as they're breaking down this stuff, having these conversations. People are yelling, screaming, like just popping off. It's just like the rowdiest thing. But they were saying that people were literally getting bullied, like practically dragged in and out of rooms and stuff. So, I mean, that level of governing sounds really hostile, really crazy. And I think after that, everyone looked to this like Truss to be like, yo, this is out of hand. You are not the one for the helm. You gotta go. Like this isn't something we can fix. We can't fix you. Which, like I said, once again, it's crazy to me. Um, Also, even crazier still, now that this, resignation has happened, she's still going to be in power until a new prime minister is voted in. This process is going to be considerably faster this time, is what I've been told. Like, the dust should be settled by next week, like by the end of next week, maybe even like sooner. But right now, the two biggest front runners are Rishi Sunak again. People are coming back to him because yet again, Jeremy Hunt, or the person that got appointed after Liz Truss axed a guy, the guy who was like her right hand man delivering the policy. Also, another person resigned too. I do not remember her name. She wasn't in this article, but essentially, it's not 100% sure why they said emails, but essentially, I think she was beefing with Liz Truss over what she was doing, and was like, "This isn't going to work." Yada yada yada. And they were going at it, so she resigned. But Jeremy Hunt, the replacement, was more or less saying, hey, like, we are going to go at a U-turn. None of what was said before is going to work, and we just can't do it. And it led everyone to feel like, well, then, Liz, what are you doing here? So yet again, it's just that conversation of like, yo, what the fuck? Like, you're kind of useless. But essentially, yeah, so Rishi Sunak's like kind of the big pick. But the number 2 pick that people are talking about is old Bojo, Boris Johnson, might make his return a lot sooner than some people even expected. That was something that I'd heard on the wire, and I was like, okay, like, I guess I could see this. Obviously, I kind of pictured it happening over like a year's time, not 44 fucking days. But I mean, hey, he had to cut his vacation a little short, but he's back in town and potentially ready to take the call. There's another person too, but it's so sad because like every time this person gets mentioned, it's like Penny something. I'm sorry, I know I'm bad, I'm the worst, but she's like a third pick, but they literally just like mention her like a wrapping paper. It's I don't know, but I mean, hey, it'd be a cool episode, huh? But yeah, it's potentially kind of a 2-person race between like Sunak and Johnson. We'll see, because that would be very interesting to me to see how that kind of shakes out. But that's all we got. Thank you so much for sticking around, listening to little old me talk my silly little news. You're the best. I love ya. If you would like to be a newsie, get that premium extra content, all the bonus episodes that I'm trying to, generate right now. You also get Discord access. You also get a shout out on the pod. I do like once a month, a little newsy roll call, if you will. So yeah, you can get in there. It's like $5. You get on that tier, you get the access. Let's see. What else is there? I got a Gmail, isaiahnews1@gmail.com. That's like the free way to try to contact me. Also, I'm on social media. You can find me. You can find my podcast on there. I'm generally like on Facebook, Twitter. I'm not hard to find. So yeah, thank you so much if you've made it all the way to the end. And even if you're just a clicker, I love you. Thank you for, I guess, making it this far. That's pretty crazy. Pretty wild of a you and I, huh? But hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love you. Bye-bye. Mwah.